Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin.
Kayla.
We love movies,
We love talking about them.
and this is the Martini Window. With us today, we have director, producer, art director, with such credits as EpiQuest and the Curse of Maggie Boone and Aliens Ate My Homework, and a personal favorite, Peelers, which is a fun little horror movie. Welcome to the show, Miss Chelsea Goodman. Chelsea.
Hi, thank you guys for having me on the show. I love that you are reading off of my IMDb, which it needs some serious updating because I only worked on Aliens Ate My Homework for like 3 days before I departed. And it's just hilarious. It's like right at the top of my IMDb, and it's like, oh, yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah. One of these days, I'll pay for IMDb Pro and finally show what I've done, or at least what I'm proud of what I've done. So yeah.
I was going to say, I know that you've worked on a fair number of productions at this point, and I was surprised to not see a fair number on there.
Yeah, it's a combination of productions either not giving me an IMDb
Cool.
credit, me forgetting to give myself an IMDb credit, or just not having the time. Like my film resume is like I keep it to 2 pages, but I have like a master resume, and I think it's up to like 5 or 6 pages, and that's just for IATSE shows. I also have my ACFC resume and then
Yeah.
also my independent resume. So yeah, I mean, like I said, one of these days I'll sit down, get IMDb Pro, and just plug in what I've actually done because I have worked on some amazing productions. Like for example, season 1 of C, and of course, which is still to be released, season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender for Netflix.
Ooh,
I'm so excited to see
Yeah.
that.
so excited with
Wait.
that one.
You guys are in for a treat. Like, oh, I'm so excited.
All right,
Yeah.
so Miss Goodman, one thing I know about you is you are a massive Daft Punk fan. So I assume that is a big reason why today we are talking about Tron Legacy.
Absolutely. I am actually wearing I wish we had a video on this, but I'm actually wearing my Daft Punk Tron Legacy shirt that I bought from Hot Topic back in 2010 before I saw Tron Legacy opening night. I still have
Yeah,
that shirt.
Tron Legacy. It was either Tron Legacy or oh god, it was either Tron Legacy or Captain America was like my first ever midnight premiere. Yeah.
Ooh, nice. Yes, so yes, representing Daft Punk right here. And yeah, I mean, I and we'll get into this later, but I'm a huge Tron fan, and I knew about Tron Legacy was coming out in 2009. But when it was announced that not only was Daft Punk, they were going to create the soundtrack, but they were also going to make an appearance in the film. That is when I was 110% sold. I was like, this is going to be so epic.
I had no idea that they were going to be in it. Like, I already loved the original Tron movie that I saw when I was a kid, so I didn't watch any ads, and I just went in completely blind. And I was so excited when I saw like Daft Punk in the End of the Line Club. It's just like
Oh
so
my
fun.
god! Oh my god! That is wow. I saw the believe it or not, I saw the screening of Tron Legacy at the Rio Theater. This is back when they were still allowed to show new movies opening night before that whole stupid rule with
Yeah,
Cineplex
I
kicked
remember that
in
era.
where oh, yeah, right? So, um, when Daft Punk made their appearance in the End of the Line Club, everyone in the Rio Theater just absolutely clapped and cheered. I think it was a sold out show or pretty close to being sold out, but we just went.
Yeah.
And I I imagine by everyone's reaction, either half of the people didn't know they were going to be in the film, or the other half knew they were going to be in the film, but they were just like, "Oh my god!" And I like obviously I knew Daft Punk was going to be in the film. I kind of saw a couple of like sketches of them. So obviously they had their helmets, and we knew they were gonna wear kind of like a kind of like a tracksuit sort of thing. But nobody really knew what they were gonna look like in the end. And then we finally saw them in the beautiful white tracksuits, light up lights, everything, and they just look stunning. And they actually had like a good amount of screen time because we see them first, and then they cut back to Chester, and he's like, change the music, blah blah blah, and then we go back to them, and then that big huge fight starts
Yeah.
out in the end of the Lion Club, and it was just absolutely epic.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember when Tron Legacy came out. I was at the midnight premiere for that one as well. And
Ooh.
what I remember, now granted the midnight premiere for me was in Mission, BC, so it didn't have a full packed theater, it didn't have a whole that, but being that it was a small town, it was a smaller town at the time. It was at least nice that they were doing one. But I went to the midnight premiere for that though, and for me, I remember Avatar had recently come, and of course we were in the big 3D
Oh, right.
trend going on at that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But Tron Legacy was one of the movies I found was able to use 3D in a far more creative fashion. They did that a whole the code to the computer at the beginning of to put your glasses on when you go into the
Oh,
go into the grid.
yes. I remember that. Yes.
You know, back in the older days, like the really older days, like, you know, before us or our parents were born. When a
Yeah.
lot of these movies were like the William Castle era, where there was that kind of heavier gimmick side going on with the movies. Like, can't remember what it was, but there's a William Castle kind of dancing skeleton movie where you would go in with these glasses, and if you put on these red glasses, you would all of a sudden see that there's a whole other layer of animation of dancing skeletons that no one's seeing. And that was all part of what these gimmicks
Right.
were. You know, you did like smell-o-vision,
Yeah.
creatures running into the theater when people were supposed to be scared. So I think about that when it came to
Mhm.
Tron Legacy, where it was such a weird little thing to experience in a theater where it's not like, you know, put your glasses on and watch a movie. They actually had a genuine like, when this happens, put your
Yeah.
glasses on for 3D action. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there's something about that, such a
Absolutely.
novelty aspect of it. I just really enjoyed.
It definitely made it feel
Yeah.
like an event. Like
Yeah, right.
I don't feel like
Yeah,
movies
absolutely.
are events as much anymore because there's like so many of them. Like some of them are,
Yeah.
but like when
Oh, yeah.
Tron came out, like it was just like such a big event with like the gimmicks and everything behind it, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
also was an amazing movie. When I saw it, I was like blown away by the graphics and everything, and like
You
Yeah.
know, Tron Legacy is also an example of a movie that like the critics did not care for it. The critics were not kind to that movie.
I
But what's
know.
interesting about it is that I, to this day, have not met somebody who's from our generation who has seen that movie and disliked
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I absolutely. I was like, okay, I get the first Tron movie got mixed reviews because it was so ahead of its time.
It is
But for
admittedly a
Tron
little slow,
Legacy, and oh yeah, and it's slow too.
especially
It
when like
is
the world's been
I
introduced to like Star Wars and stuff at this point.
yeah. Yeah. And but when Tron Legacy came out, I was like, this is going to hit it out of the park. This is the one. This is it. Like we were ready
I
for
thought
good
this
reviews.
movie was gonna do for VFX what Avatar did originally. Like I thought when the
Exactly.
trailers were coming out and all that, I thought like I was already excited for Avatar because I'm a James Cameron fan. But like
Yeah.
regardless though, I thought Tron Legacy was gonna be the one that was gonna be talked about 10 years down the line about how it affected technology of the era. But I was a little surprised by
Mhm.
that. But in the end, you know, I was still pretty blown away by the technical achievements of that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like Tron Legacy, and I know we've been talking mainly about like the graphics so far, but I feel like the graphics
Mhm.
in Tron Legacy uh really helped bring the world and story that I was very interested in like the first one as a kid, but I had to kind of look past the graphics because I was seeing it after they weren't good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So when I saw this and it was like at the height of it, I'm like, I realized that this must be how people felt watching the original Tron. because it was the same kind of perspective of these graphics are
Well,
amazing.
the original Tron actually
Mhm.
wasn't a big success in theaters. It came out
Oh, good God,
it came
no.
out in 1982, in the summer of
Yeah.
82 against we're talking about a summer where Blade Runner didn't even stand a chance in theaters, because we're talking that summer had Return of the Jedi, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you
Yeah.
had E.T., you had oh god, what are some other ones here? The Thing, Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I know I'm missing a good chunk of movies here, but the summer of 82 was like looked back
Mhm.
on as like the greatest summer of movie history. And Tron, like The Thing, was another victim of that summer as well, because you can go see the existential threat shape-shifting being in this John Carpenter Alien movie, or you can go watch the Steven
Mm.
Spielberg Alien movie everyone's talking about with the Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Who wants to see a weird, cheesy film about arcades and light cycles
When
and
Return of the freaking Jedi is in theaters right now, like
yeah, and Jeff Bridges, and I mean everyone loves Jeff Bridges, but
he was pretty hot back
yeah,
then too.
it's
Like he was like hot in the sense of like he was a very popular actor at the time. Like he was on a lot of things.
oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
oh absolutely, yeah. No, he's like obviously I my introduction to Jeff Bridges, I imagine for most people, of course, was The Big Lebowski, and I always knew that he was in Tron. So how I discovered the original Tron is, of course, I played Kingdom Hearts
right.
2, and in Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
2, we do the Tron level, which is the best level in the world. Sora, Goofy, and Donald's costumes look amazing. It's like one of the best levels ever. And I always kind of knew what Tron was, like light cycle Jeff Bridges, but I never saw the movie. And after I played Kingdom Hearts 2 and I played that level, I was like, I really need to see this movie. And I watched, I rented, so old. I rented Tron from Blockbuster. I watched it after I did the Sun Run.
Okay.
I didn't run the Sun Run. I walked the Sun Run, so I was extremely exhausted, but I still watched the movie. And like I knew coming into it, it was going to be cheesy, 80s, outdated. Just I was prepared for what I was going into. I did absolutely find it incredibly slow, but when they showed the light cycle scene, it's like my heart stopped because I knew how far advanced ahead of its time Tron was back in 82.
Yeah.
The fact that they were able to make this film, pull off those graphics, make this world believable back in 82 just blew my mind.
And then to get
And I
shunned
knew
from the Oscars for it.
because they cheated.
By
They
using
quote
computers.
cheated.
That is an actual
Yeah.
fact. The Oscars
Yeah.
blacklisted
Yeah.
Tron for best visual
Yeah.
effects because they said they cheated by using computers.
No one,
That's right.
no one,
Yeah.
no one told James Cameron this rule.
Yeah, right. Just the whole Tron team just got shafted, and here we are, fast forwarding to now with AI supposedly going to replace us and make films. But anyway, so became a Tron fan, and then of course saw Tron opening night at the Rio Theater
Right.
back in 2010, and so I'll give you guys a little bit of a backstory. So before I went into film, I went to college into graphic designing. I was planning to be a graphic designer, but of course I've always liked films, and I kind of hem and hawed about going into the film industry, but I knew nothing about it. I never was a film kid. I never took film in school. There's no one in my family that did film. I was just a fan.
Right.
But the night I saw Tron Legacy at the Rio Theater, and it was the scene where Flynn is in the games and they're going to have the light cycle races. That scene is he in slow motion, he runs across the screen, he jumps, and then he morphs into riding his light cycle. And that very moment, I thought to myself, I want to do that.
Oh.
I want to create films like that. And that night, driving home, I decided that I was going to go to film school and go into the film industry because A, I was getting bored of graphic designing, and B, I tried twice to get into Quantlint's graphic designing for marketing program
Right.
that only accepts 25 students a year, and I wasn't getting in. I wasn't getting anywhere, and I said, fuck it. I want my degree in something, and I think I'm going to try film school, and that just what pretty much just kicked off my whole film career. And so this is the reason why I picked Tron Legacy for this episode, is because everyone asks me, they're like, "Oh, what's the film that got you into all of this?" And I'm like, "Tron Legacy," and they're like, "Oh, that's kind of weird," or people have
It's
mixed
not a movie
reactions.
that
Either people,
people,
yeah,
express claims to. I mean, like, we had
yeah,
another episode we were talking about Beastmaster with James O'Rourke, could be a Bex guy, and he's talking about like
ooh,
how it was a movie from this B Sword and Sandals movie from 1982 that made him want to go into VFX, and it's like these sort of influences can kind of come from anywhere. The reason why I'm in movies was because when I saw the first Spider-Man in theaters, and it's like,
oh,
you think when you talk to a
nice.
lot of people that, it was like, oh, I wanted to go into film because of Francis Ford Coppola and
Mm.
Jean-Luc Godard. And I do love these filmmakers, but, I'm not going to change history. The fact is, it was Sam Raimi and a popcorn blockbuster that made me want to become a filmmaker.
For me, it was
Oh yeah, I love. Yeah.
was
Oh, sorry.
Alien.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh
I saw the xenomorph, and I'm
yes.
like, originally I wanted to like make movie monsters. I saw Alien, and I
Ooh.
wanted to make movie
Yeah.
monsters, and that was like my goal from
Yeah.
then on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's anyone. Yeah. Like you said, Kevin. Inspiration or the will to do this really comes from anywhere. And yes, we got the classics and the masterpieces, but everyone has their favorite film or types of films or series,
Yeah.
and it's really cool to hear what their favorite film is, or what really inspired them to get into the film industry. And what's really cool is Tron 3 is going to be filmed in Vancouver this summer. It has not been affected by the writer's strike, at least according to IATSE resources. And
I love that you're
I
just
actually,
divulging.
you know what? If they have a problem, they can call me. Yeah, you watch
Now,
me get in
my worry
trouble.
about
Oh
Tron 3,
shit!
though, is that
Yeah.
Tron 3 is not a direct sequel. It's not following the story. It's not going to be followed up. Like, I want to see the war between Clue 2 and the ISOs versus the real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, obviously time has passed between Tron 2 and 3. I forgot to mention this, but so after Tron Legacy, Tron 3 was supposed to be made here in
Yes,
Vancouver
I remember
back
that.
in oh
Due to
boy, was it 20.
Tomorrowland, they
Yeah.
shut down the movie.
Yeah, which was devastating. I actually applied to PA on Tron 3, and then it got shut down.
When Tron
Um
3 got shut down, though, Star Trek Beyond took over its lot.
Did it now? Oh, that
Yeah.
makes so much sense. Yeah, because they could just still use the same volume, sound stage and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense now. That makes sense. Yeah. For Tron 3, yes, it's not going to be a direct sequel. Yeah, it's too bad, because you're right. We all wanted to see what would happen to Sam and Cora, because Cora went into the real world with Sam,
Yeah.
um and yeah, I I've heard so many rumors about what Tron 3 is going to be about. They said it's going to be like a new thing, or it's going to have, maybe they'll bring back some of the original cast. I don't really know. I also don't want to read too much into it, because I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
never
be.
want to. I just really
Yeah,
hope that we
yeah.
get back Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde, because quite frankly, I thought Olivia Wilde was like one of the strongest parts of that
Fantastic.
movie. Oh my god, she was
Fantastic.
fantastic in that.
Oh my god, they said for behind the scenes for Tron Legacy that they literally scouted the world for someone to play Cora. Like, they had so many auditions, so many options, and they finally went with her, which I think was just the best choice ever. Like,
Yeah.
and she's great. Like, what she's done, like her role, all her roles she's done has been absolutely amazing. But yeah, like what I've kind of the rumors I've heard is like, supposedly Tron 3 was supposed to follow Sam and Cora, and then from if you guys, it was briefly shown in Tron Legacy, but Dillinger. So Dillinger was the villain from the first film. His
Right.
son was in that board meeting with Alan and the others, and so supposedly, what was the villain arc of Tron 3 was that Dillinger's son was going to go after Sam Flynn and kind of avenge his father, because at that time, David Warner, who plays Dillinger slash Sark, was still
Right.
alive. And unfortunately, David Warner passed away last year. So that was kind of the original storyline. I know, I don't know. It's I'm just, again, I don't want to read too much into it, because I don't want to fall down a Reddit rumor rabbit hole or anything. But yeah, we'll see what becomes of it. But
You heard it here, folks. Jeff Bridges is playing 6 roles in Tron 3, confirmed by
There-
Chelsea Goodman.
yeah, he's gonna be
We've-
everyone.
We have recast Cora with Jeff Bridges.
Yes,
Guess
that's
who's playing
right.
Sam now? Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. There you go. Yeah,
The light cycle really ties the room together.
it really does. Yes. I want a Tron Big Lebowski crossover. Like so.
I mean,
I just
I
want.
kind of feel like you
yeah.
dotted a little bit in Tron Legacy, to be honest. The
Oh,
way,
yes.
him in Tron Legacy was so much more the vein of the dude. But that's
Yeah.
also apparently just Jeff Bridges. Like, that's just
Yeah.
how he is.
Yeah, he was, and you know what? Some people complained about that. They were like, "Oh my god, now Kevin Flynn is now the dude." Ugh. And it's like, well, Kevin Flynn was trapped in this world for so many years, and he had to hide in exile. And what really kind of prevented him from going crazy was like meditating and just what's it called, erasing yourself from the equation and that sort of thing. So yeah, he kind of would, in a way, be the dude. I mean, I have no problem with Jeff Bridges the dude. Like, I think,
There
one
shouldn't
of
be
the-
any problem to be had. He's one of the best characters in movie history.
exactly. Yeah.
I actually like how he changed in Tron Legacy, like you were saying. Like isolation can drive a person insane.
Mhm.
So I feel like the only way you're really able to be okay being alone is like you go more like the way of the monk, or just
Yeah.
That's
look
right.
inward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the way of Buddhism, that sort of thing. And I thought it was great. I had no problem with it. Again, I absolutely love this movie. Would I say it's like flawless? There's a few little flaws here and there, but in the end,
I don't think there's such thing as a perfect movie, with the
No.
exception of Back to the Future.
Yeah. yeah. Yeah.
But but like with this particular one though, with Tron Legacy, like
Mhm.
I remember when it was coming around, a big reason I thought it was going to push technology the way they thought is because they're making such a huge deal about de-aging, about the de-aging of Jeff Bridges.
Oh yeah.
I want to point out that when you see the de-aging, has it aged the best? No.
Nope.
De-aging rarely has. I'd argue some of the de-aging from Mandalorian is already aged. You know what I mean? Like, it's a hard task to do. But I look at that and it's so weird because it always looked a little uncanny valley and off from the get-go. However, here we are now 13 years later, and I don't feel it looks any worse than it did 13 years ago. And that kind of makes sense. Like, it was never perfect to begin with, but it hasn't actually aged worse than that since.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was done before deep fake, and now we have
Oh
AI.
my God. If they were to do
so,
that
yeah.
now, actually they could have Jeff Bridges play every role.
There you go. So it's gonna happen. You hear it right. You heard it right here, folks.
It's right here, everybody.
right
Hear it
here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Two people who have nothing to do with this movie tell
Yep.
it like it is.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
So,
If yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So if you're not happy that it turns out to not be true, contact Chelsea.
That's right. I am the expert. yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I like I said earlier, we Tron 3 is being made. Fuck, I'm just gonna say, you guys, it's being made here in Vancouver.
You did say that.
Yeah,
You said it
yeah,
already on the phone.
yeah. No, but
Extra
I'm
confirmation from Chelsea.
yeah, no, I'm not keeping it a secret. And I live in downtown Vancouver, and I actually saw a location, a small group doing a location scout underneath the Granville Street Bridge, and I saw one of the guys wearing a Disney jacket. And then I went home, and I follow a Tron fan Facebook group, and someone posted a picture of this group under the Granville Street Bridge saying, "Hey, look, it's the there's the crew from Tron 3 and the location scouting underneath the Granville Street Bridge in Vancouver. OMG, guys, Tron 3 is finally gonna be made." And I'm like, "You heard it here, folks. Don't like I'm not the one posting it publicly online. People know." So yeah, if I get in trouble with IATSE, sorry, not sorry. But why I'm keep saying this is I truly, with all my heart, want to work on Tron 3. I've already sent emails to the production designer. I'm just kind of getting it out there in the universe. But like, if I do somehow manage to be on this feature, I mean, that's just going to be such a full circle moment, because it was Tron Legacy that got me into the film industry. And
Right.
here we are 13 years later now with Tron 3. I don't know. We'll see. Fingers
Well,
crossed, toes crossed.
if anybody relevant is listening to this, I mean, only cool people hire Chelsea Goodman.
That's
So
right. That's right. And like, being on Netflix's live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, like, that was just such a crazy
it's
experience.
so hard because how much can you really say about it, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to make a joke about your resume, but then I was like, what can I say other than like what you've told me? I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah.
Nah, it's whatever. But just I never imagined me watching Avatar Avatar: The Last Airbender back in 2005. Been a huge fan of the series, and then all these years later, I work on the live action version. I never thought that was going to happen.
I actually
Yeah.
felt that way about I used to watch the Justice League cartoon when I was younger, so I always been a big fan of the Flash as a character.
Oh,
So work on the TV show was actually a lot of that for me.
wow, that's amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh yeah, just again, the fact that we the whole Arrowverse was filmed here, and we got to work on Arrow, the Flash,
Yeah.
Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman. Just the fact that those shows were here, and that the Arrowverse really well, I mean, the Vancouver film industry has always been on the map, but this really, really put us on the map.
Well, it employed
Yeah.
like 60% of our industry. It was crazy.
Oh yeah.
I didn't
It
put in a
was-
resume for like 9 years.
Yeah. Job security.
But
Like
Uh,
Supernatural.
yeah,
Oh
right?
my God, yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
I did a couple of days on Supernatural with the set deck crew, and I worked with dressers that were there since day one, since the pilot. And this was the last season, season 15, and they were on the show for 15 years. And once the show ended, I heard that a few of these dressers just retired, and
Why
so they
wouldn't you?
should.
If you could plan ahead, then why not, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
It's long hours to like, save the money. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I also did set deck, I think, on season 13.
Oh, nice.
For like, not a whole lot, just a little bit of it. And I was working with set dressers who were telling me stories about David Duchovny on the original X-Files.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I love talking to those who worked on X-Files, and
The stories from that shoot, my
yeah,
God.
oh boy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Stories that probably shouldn't be said, but
yeah, right.
as
yeah.
I think those, yeah, I mean, we've all worked on enough productions to know that most shows have stories similar.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's also kind of like a case of whispers, because is that actually what happened, or has the story been told 3 different times by a different person who's like,
Yeah.
it sounds better if it's from me?
Yeah, for anyone's
Yeah.
listening, this isn't like a Me Too thing or anything like that. We're just talking about like general chaos and hijinks.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Just so we're clear, we're not accusing anyone here of
No, no.
something to listen. Oh man. So
Yeah. Yep.
in the last 6 months, and you're both design, like you both do graphic design, you and Kayla here. So I know that for both of you, it's actually kind of relevant. But over the
Mhm.
last year, AI imagery, which I refuse to call art, has been
Ugh.
making its way kind of out into the limelight. Now you're both designers, and this movie Tron Legacy actually deals with um the fallout in a sense of unchecked AI.
Mhm.
And, in ways that Terminator has too and all that. But I'm kind of curious, like, how do you feel it is looking back on this movie now, 13 years later, with the way that we are now in this universe?
Yeah, it's in a way, it's almost like a kind of like a cautionary tale. Like the ISOs are kind of like the AI, and Clue um smushed them. Well, Kevin Flynn wanted to kind of get to know them more. And at first, for the longest time, I was like, oh, how dare Clue wipe out the ISOs? Oh my God. But kind of comparing it to now to AI, it's like AI is scary. It's not art. It's replacing people. It's copying people's art. It's something to really fear about. And when I went into graphic designing back in 2009, this is when Vista Print and Cava and all those programs were coming
Yeah.
out where people could do their own graphic designing.
Yeah.
And I took graphic designing and magazine publishing, and this is when the iPad came out and when print and magazines were becoming obsolete. And already I felt like I was being replaced by technology in a way or by something else. And so just to answer your question, Tron Legacy kind of showed us that and kind of gave us a warning, but it was, yeah, I'm like Tron and Tron Legacy, or the Tron series, has always been ahead of its time, and I really hope for Tron 3 they kind of continue this way with showing and talking about these things that could and can or will happen in the future, sort of thing. So in a way, it's such a double-edged sword because like technology helps us create and make things, but at the same time, some of it is either slowly replacing what we do or alternating or um that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I when the writer strike first happened, everyone went on to movie set memes and all the derpy Facebook film groups, and we're
Yeah,
like,
crew
oh,
stories,
Yeah.
movie
yeah,
set
crew
memes, 2,
stories,
3,
yeah,
whatever it's at this
yeah,
point. Crew stories has basically become movie set memes. Like,
yeah, and then everyone's like, "You're not gonna be replaced by AI. No more writers, no more crew, no more nothing. The robots are coming. The computers are coming. We're all gonna die. Doom scroll, doom scroll, doom scroll." And I just had to unsubscribe to all that. So
right, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's God, it's scary. It's really scary. I like obviously I've always known that our technology and our programs and our computers and our phones and everything were going to either make the work go easier or faster or whatever. But I never thought AI would get to a point where it would just replace the artist or do the art for the
Well,
artist or do the writing for the writer. So
yeah.
yeah,
Well, in an
yeah,
in an ideal world, I think when I've spoken to people who are pro AI, the way that they see it is it should be doing like the labor jobs in that. Like if it's people working in a dangerous factory, have AI doing that, and then, you know, give people a means to, like, you know, still be alive. I don't know if it's like a universal basic income or something if you're taking away their ability to, you know, work.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know that's a bit of a hot topic there, but I think if we're actively having robots replace people, we need to figure out how we're going to help the people who've now been made obsolete, because
Absolutely.
what are we going to do?
Yeah. What you just said, Kayla, reminds me of iRobot. No, there's a cautionary tale right there.
Right?
Yeah, it's definitely two pathways. We can either help the people, and then I always think about I don't know if you guys are Warhammer 40K fans. Are you at all? Do you know anything about it?
I'm not. Kayla's more of a tabletop player than I am, but I don't think
Okay.
you play.
That was more my brother's thing. I would know. I would, if you were saying things to me, I would understand some references.
Probably.
Okay, so where I'm going with this is, so in Warhammer 40K, and to the listeners out there, I'm a very new 40K fan. There's lots of lore. I'm still learning it, so I might butcher up some facts, names, etc. So I apologize in advance. But anyways, I'm gonna explain this. So in 40K, the race, the Eldar, or the elves in space, make this society where AI or robots or whatever do all the work for them, and they get to live a life of leisure and all that. But then it gets to the point where they're corrupted, and then they somehow unleash Slanesh, which is like the god of death or whatever, and they like destroy the universe and half their race, and like that they lived in a paradise and things got too good, and then suddenly they got corrupted, or things got flipped upside down. So Kayla, when you're saying like help the people, my mind just starts wandering off to like, oh god, are we gonna end up like the Eldar? Like
Right?
are we on, or or the other pathway is we get replaced. I don't know. I kind of feel like in a way we're living in the beginning of some sci-fi movie, some sci-fi like novel. Like here we are today with AI. Where do we go from here, sort of thing. So
Not only that, but you have like the creator of OpenAI, the former CEO of OpenAI, the people who made ChatGPT and stuff. He quit the company. He's going around being like, stop developing AI, stop developing my creation. I mean, that's absolutely the beginning of any of these sci-fi movies. Like that would be if we wrote a script right now and it started with that, a producer would tell us that that's too cliche.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not sci-fi, but it's I'm not sure if you've ever played the Dragon Age games. Huge fan. They're like they're my thing. But in Dragon Age Inquisition, you get to know about, like, because there's elves there, and there's fantasy racism, all that stuff. The elves were enslaved, or they're out in their Dalish tribes, basically. But you get to find out about the elven gods and that they worshipped, and it turns out there were like people, like there were elves who basically learned enough magic to be able to live forever. And a lot of the markings on their faces, they're like, these are worshiping our gods. They were slave markings. The elven gods used to enslave their own people, and so really it's these elves that just got so powerful with magic and got so caught up in it that they just stopped seeing everyone else as people.
That's crazy.
And that so rings Warhammer 40K. It's just or just elves or Elder in general. Like, it's
I might have missed information because I gleaned this through like reading texts and books I found in the game, so I haven't like put it out on like a timeline to be concise, but that's like what I gathered from it, basically.
Right. Oh, yeah, it's just the former CEO just warning us about this. It's like, the whole like "I told you so, you should have listened to me" kind of thing, and
Nobody
it's
listens to the artists.
no, they never
Nobody
do.
listens to us.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
should listen to us.
yeah, right.
I'm
Uh,
surprised he's not like a classic harbinger character from a horror movie. Like,
No, you go out it is right now. And
well,
well,
what
listen
the
to the
hell?
harbinger. This is the harbinger, cabin of the woods, telling you don't do it.
yeah.
This is the guy knocking on your door, being like, I know, sometimes that is better. This is that guy right now, and he created the damn device. And he's trying to tell us, do not use the thing I made. And I kind of feel like anybody right now who looks at a movie and says, well, yeah, you turn around at that point. The guy told you it's haunted up there. You don't do it. It's like, well, we all just prove we're as stupid as these horror characters.
I bet you there's someone in like another like metaverse or another world. They're watching us. They're watching the reality series called Earth, and they're probably just right there being like, they're like, listen to him, don't do it. He's just screaming at the TV.
I kind of feel like it's because by the way, I appreciate the South Park reference there. The
Oh,
reality I imagine they're up there. They'll be like, well, now they're just repeating the same storylines over and over. These damn characters keep doing something they think is smart, go too far with it, and gets them killed. And here we go again. I'm getting so sick of this show. I would be done with this show if it wasn't literally the only thing on TV.
yeah, history repeating itself. Oh my god,
That sounds very
yeah.
Rick and Morty.
Yes, yeah, I was just thinking about Rick and Morty. Oh man. But
I think it's
yeah.
impossible to talk about Tron Legacy though without taking a moment to talk about the thing that everyone always talks about, which is the freaking soundtrack.
Right?
Oh,
So good.
I
my
remember when this came
God.
out, and I didn't understand the hype about Daft Punk quite yet. Like I knew Interstellar 55, I knew like, one more time, like all that stuff around the
Yep.
world. I remember seeing the music videos, but I didn't understand the hype, right?
Mhm.
So when I started having friends of mine be so excited about a movie soundtrack coming out, I first off just suddenly thought all my friends became cinephiles. I didn't realize that there was suddenly this urge because I didn't realize how big it was that Daft Punk was releasing a new album. In fact, now
Right.
it's funny when you listen to it too because it's a banger of a soundtrack, but like so many of the tracks are like a minute long.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's so for me, like I became a big Daft Punk fan when they released Human After All. And so I was
My
already a
favorite
fan.
my favorite Daft Punk album, by the way.
Human After All,
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, my favorite.
So I was already so used to the music that they already had for their first 3 albums, plus they did, you know what sucks, guys, is by the time I became a Daft Punk fan, they had already finished their 2007 live tour. They never came to Vancouver. I think the closest they got to here was maybe Seattle. I could be wrong, but anyways, so
Yeah.
I was already a big fan. I was already used to just the way they did music. I always knew that Geeman and Thomas yes, they're DJs, but they're also classically trained musicians. And I know for a while they were talking about they would love to do some sort of album or track or something with an orchestra. And then of course it all came
Yeah.
together with them making the Tron Legacy soundtrack, which by the way, they recorded that soundtrack with the London Orchestra.
Oh my
That's
god.
yeah, that they did it with the London
Huh.
Orchestra. That's why it's so like theatrical and well, that's why it's so amazing. And so when I first saw the movie, I'll be a little honest. When I first saw Tron Legacy, I kind of had mixed feelings about the music because I was like, okay, this is obviously Daft Punk, but this is not the Daft Punk I know. And then I saw
Right.
the movie like a million more times. And then, of course, I bought the soundtrack on CD from HNV because I am old.
I did
And
the
then
same.
We all did
yeah,
the same thing, Chelsea.
yes. And then Insta fell in love with it. And then I actually rewatched Tron Legacy during Christmas and actually re-listened to the soundtrack, and it's it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And have you guys ever sat down and listened to the soundtrack from the original Tron movie?
No, I can sincerely say I have not.
You should. It's very different
Who did the
and
soundtrack
weird.
for the original one?
Wendy, gosh, her name's slipping. Wendy, she did the soundtrack for The Shining. She uses a lot of like synthesizers
Wendy
and
Carlos.
Wendy Carlos, thank you.
Wendy
Yes.
Carlos.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So
Huh.
her soundtrack is the soundtrack for the first Tron is it's kind of like a how can I describe it? It's like a soothing, eerie, mystical kind of journey. I don't know, sorry, I'm trying to remember what it sounds like, but it's kind of a you
I
listen to
remember
the
the Tron
sound.
soundtrack. Watching the movie,
Yeah,
I remember the soundtrack being a little bit more ethereal.
ethereal. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Thank you. It is very ethereal in a way, and then you just
Yeah.
listen to it on its own, and you're like, "Oh, what?" And then you see the movie, and you're like, "Oh, I get it. Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah. But the soundtrack for Tron Legacy is again it's a banger, and I've actually been to like random like DJ nights or parties in the backyard, or I've had some DJ friends that will actually take tracks from the Tron Legacy soundtrack and remix them, and
It's
it's
such
just
awesome.
yeah, and unfortunately, the Tron Legacy soundtrack did not win Soundtrack of the Year during the Grammys because the King's Speech soundtrack beat it. And
Well,
I'm still very, very bitter about that to this day. But thankfully, a few years later, when Daft Punk released Random Access Memories, which by the way is celebrating its 10th anniversary, they ended up winning 5 Grammys at the 2017, no, 20, oh my gosh, my dates are getting
didn't
wrong.
they get
Anyways,
didn't they get
yeah,
their friends into the Grammys?
Daft Punk.
Yeah.
they're,
Oh, I'll have to fact check this, but I read a
yeah,
story online that they dressed their friends up in the Daft Punk outfit when they
That
won
is
an award.
hilarious.
Did I
oh,
might
oh,
be lying.
oh,
I'm gonna check
oh,
this.
um, you think that it wasn't actually Guy-Man or Thomas that was on stage when they were accepting their awards? Like someone else was wearing their helmets and their outfits? Is it that?
I think
Because
that's what I'm
I
getting.
think that's what it. I'll check. I'm
yeah,
probably
yeah,
misremembering something, so I probably
yeah.
shouldn't have mentioned that.
I know after they won those Grammys, it was either Saturday Night Live or one of the late night shows kind of did a spoof where these two guys dressed up as them, and they took off their helmets. They're like, "Oh, yeah, it's not. We're surprised. We're not actually Daft Punk." That sort of thing. So it might have been that.
May have been that.
It may have been that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that soundtrack though, that was really something else. I remember it was such a big deal at the time. The one track that never gets out of my head is Derez. But it's also,
Oh,
I mean, that was also the single too that came out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. My only thing is I've always really been a little finicky about when people call it the 2-hour Daft Punk music video.
Oh
Because I
God.
find it is so dismissive of the writing and the story and
Oh.
the acting. Like I thought
Mm.
Garrett, I really was hoping for a bigger career from Garrett Hedlund after that. And
Yeah.
I
I
still like
was
to see him pop in
same.
and stuff, but
Uh,
he was there. There
absolutely.
was like a few minutes. There was like about a year or two there, but they were really trying to make Garrett Hedlund like the next thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And um, I'm gonna admit, when I first saw Tron Legacy, I wasn't quite sure about him, and then I saw it again, and I was like, okay, this is the guy. This is the guy right here. Because of course he would be, Kevin Flynn's son, right?
Oh,
Um,
easily.
yeah. Getting back to your comments of it being a 2-hour Daft Punk music video, I've heard that so many times, and it just makes me so mad. And another thing. So you mentioned it earlier, but Daft Punk made an animated movie called Interstellar 5555, which
Yep.
the soundtrack to it
Which is
is
more so it's a visual album than anything.
it is a visual album. So
But there's a
that
story. So I mean, there is a through
yeah,
line story though. So
exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, people that say that need to look at themselves in the mirror and think
I
about
mean, they're
their
the same
life
people.
choices
I
now.
made this. I made a comment about this. I made a comment about this on another episode, but it's the same sort of people who keep parroting, "Oh, Avatar was just Ferngully in space," and think it's an original opinion, right? It's like,
Oh,
no, somebody said that opinion to you at the right time, got on the internet, and you called it your own opinion.
oh God.
And you can tell when people are talking about things like Tron Legacy and all that, because they'll want to say 2-hour Daft Punk music video, but then now they're at a point like, they won't say it outright. It'll just like, "Oh yeah, but didn't you ever feel it was kind of just a 2-hour Daft Punk video?" And they say it like some way like that to make sure that it sounds like it was an original thought they just had.
And that's funny because within those 2 hours, we only see like Daft Punk for like what, 3 minutes or less,
Yeah.
or at least
And
for
I would
two
argue that
shots.
I would argue that the music is so fitting to the imagery and scenes, not because it's a 2-hour Daft Punk video, but that's because that's what a bloody score is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I don't understand people
Exactly.
didn't have this mindset. It's like, yes, it's going to coordinate with the visuals. That's what a
Yeah,
soundtrack does
that's
when
what
used
you do.
appropriately.
Yeah. You're in post. You get the film to
But you
um
walk,
picture lock, thank you. And it's time to do the soundtrack, and you sit down with your composer or your team or whatever, and you watch the whole film, and then they, depending on what the soundtrack is, they time the notes, the singing, the
yeah.
sound
Well,
effects, the whatever, right? It's like
what I will say, that's a little off topic of Tron Legacy, but I'm going to do a little bit of spoiling one of your positions I know you've had in the past,
yep.
because it's a little bit relevant.
Oh, yep.
So it's been said before that normally, composer sees the film and then they start composing the music after that. Some directors and composers have different relationships.
Mhm.
In the case of Steven Spielberg, he sends dailies over to John Williams so he can work on it while he's making the movie. So in case he has any new ideas, because then later on the way he directs might be influenced by the music he's been hearing now from the movie. Now, you've
Mm.
worked with Steven Spielberg for a fair number of time, in the editing room for the BFG, did you not?
That I did, absolutely. So right after, like literally the day after I graduated from film school, I graduated from Capilano University back in 2015. I was offered a editorial PA job on the production of the BFG, the Big Friendly Giant. And I got to work with Steven Spielberg's editors, and I saw Steven Spielberg every single day at lunchtime because that's when he would come in and watch the dailies with his editors. And
Yeah.
I mean, for a film kid, to for a film grad to have their first job working not only on a Steven Spielberg production, but to see Steven Spielberg every single day was just the the cherry on top. It blew my mind. And I
You had the
remember
first you got the first gig that every film school student says, "I'm
yeah,
not gonna settle unless I get X."
yeah.
And you got the
And
damn gig.
yeah, and here's the crazy thing is how I got this gig through Capilano University. So, often between semesters, um, certain productions or whatever will email Capilano being like, "Hey, we need a couple of students to help us with this project, or we need a couple of students to PA on that project." They would give us work between semesters or after we've graduated. A few weeks before we graduated, there was an email sent us out to all the students being like, "Hey, the BFG is looking for a editorial PA to help for 2 weeks." I was only on the production for 2 weeks. It was still magical. Is anyone interested? I applied right away, and then I kind
As
of
you
asked,
would. Yeah.
yeah, and I asked my classmates. I was like, "Guys, did you hear about this? Are you gonna do it?" And they're like, "Yeah, whatever." And I had other classmates that were way better editors, or just had a bit more office PA experience than
Yeah.
I did. So I I I applied right away, but I was like, I'm not going to get the job. It's just no, it's gonna go to someone else. And
Yeah. So
then I ended up getting it.
that's amazing. So when you
Yeah,
were in the editing room, this is kind of where my question comes in. Like Daft
yeah.
Punk obviously had I couldn't even imagine. They must have got like they clearly did not have a completed film in front of them to do the music of because Tron Legacy is so VFX filled, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
in a situation like that, like with that in that situation, did you hear a temp score during the cut or anything like that? Or
Oh, good question. Okay, so no, what was their temp music? Um, no, there was no temp music at the
right,
time. Now, the BFG had a very large editing team, and then right next door to us was a couple of visual effects artists and such from Weta. Weta was right next door to us, so a lot of
right,
things were split up, and I mostly worked closely with the assistant editor, or not, oh gosh, not the assistant, the offline editor. So I mostly saw the rawest of the raw files, but I did get to see it slowly get pieced together without any visual effects. There was one part where they kind of had pipes playing, and it was just kind of a temp file sort of thing. But no, I did not hear any temp music or early workings of the music.
right.
Again, I was only there for 2 weeks. I
Oh,
was
fair
there
enough.
for I was there for the last 2 weeks before they wrapped
Yeah,
production, and then
yeah.
the editors, because they were all from LA, they went back to LA and then they finished everything up. But it would have been cool if that have happened. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, it just makes me kind of wonder how exactly Daft Punk were able to sync it up so well. I mean, I feel a lot of that had to have been done in post, like to
Yeah,
actually sync it up to the music, because they would have had to be producing that at the same time they're making the movie.
I imagine they're
yeah.
probably getting updated storyboards of how it's going
Yeah,
to go.
probably something.
If I had to do that in a production, if it was heavy intense on the visuals, they'd be getting the storyboards for the
Yeah,
shot.
yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense for sure. And I mean, they're just geniuses, so of course they're gonna pull it off regardless. So
Yeah,
oh man. Um yeah, so continuing on the topic of Daft Punk, every people are probably aware, but they broke up in 2021. It wasn't
So sad.
over, yeah, it wasn't over bad blood or anything. They were at a point in their careers like where they were like, we've done enough, and they kind of wanted to go off and do their own thing. But
yeah.
of course now they're not going to do the soundtrack for Tron 3. And what makes you wonder, it's like, who's going to do the soundtrack for Tron 3? Who is going to fill in the shoes for both Wendy and for Daft Punk? Like, I wonder. Like,
They should go for Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
oh, oh, damn.
That's who they should go with.
Yes.
Or who did the score for Endor?
Oh,
Very
oh man, he was also the one who did Succession.
Oh,
Or who that was? Nicholas Bertel.
okay.
Nicholas Bertel. However, with that, Chelsea, it's been wonderful having you with us here. That's our time, and I just want to say thank you everyone for listening. If you are listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, what have you, you can click the link in the description to buy yourself a Blu Ray of Tron Legacy, and for a bonus, a link to buy the soundtrack from Daft Punk. Chelsea, wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, you guys.